Good morning and welcome to the RSU Research Conference. I am Miss Romana Celeste Mauhay of the Lyceum of the Philippines, University, Batangas. And I'm about to present a research topic entitled Communicative Language Teaching and Competencies of LPU English Teachers, Basis for Training and Development Planning. Communication is central in how we live. Language is very essential. Communication language teaching serves to function as to providing teachers the best communicative purposes in terms of learning and development. The objectives of the study: number one, to describe the profile of the respondents. Number two, to identify the communicative language teaching. Number three, to determine the communicative language teaching as to grammar, linguistic competence, phonology, vocabulary, structure of knowledge, social linguistics, discourse analysis, and strategic competence. Number four, to test the difference in responses when grouped according to various variables. And number five, to propose an action plan for training and development. Communication aims to supervise, prepare, enhance, align, and know. Communication skills should be the center of language teaching, and communication methods focused on communication functions should be developed. In other words, it should not only be regarded for grammar, but also for language and use. Communicative language teaching functions are often intended to provide qualified teachers for communication purposes with the best in terms of learning and development. It increases the ability of individuals to hear, to speak, to read, and write simultaneously, which, according to Richard and Rogers, makes language and communication autonomous. Language is used to communicate, and true communication without contact is not possible. The main aim of the language approach of communication is to learn and educate people and develop skills and properly use language in order to have social context. The method used in this research is a descriptive method. The descriptive method is used to assess and find answer to question through the analysis of variables. The researcher also made use of survey question adapted to answer the objectives relating to communicative competencies. It is very important and preliminary to the study to utilize various school documents and important records to serve as basis for evaluating programs as basis for development and improvement. Method includes number one, participants. The participants of the study were divided in three divisions: the college professors, the senior high school professors, and the junior high school professors. The instrument. The instrument used is a questionnaire and was distributed among these English teachers. The questionnaire is divided into three parts. The first part includes the profile of the respondents as to the division, gender, age, and years of teaching experience. The second part includes the standard adapted questionnaire by Jack Richards on communicative language teaching today. The third part is the communicative competence of the teacher as to classroom instruction. The questions were modified as to suit the needs of the research study. The study was validated by university statistician and tested through the reliability sample technique. Number three, procedure. The researchers sought the total number of English teachers in the respective divisions and handed over the questionnaire for a reliability test. Afterwards, proceeded to the conducting of research as the research method. Data analysis. The gathered data were tallied, encoded, and analyzed using different statistical tools. Frequency counts was used to describe the profile of the respondents. Weighted mean and ranking were used to determine the various communicative language teaching strategies. Independent sample t-test and analysis of variance were used to test the comparison on variables and the strategies. In addition, all data were treated using statistical software known as the SPSS version 26 in order to interpret the results of the study. Table 1, the percentage distribution according to the respondents. So as you can see, the highest respondent in terms of the division would be the high school's teachers, and then next to them would be the college instructors, and the last in the list is the junior high school teachers. For the gender or sex, a count or frequency number of 18 for female with a frequency distribution of 69.20 as to the percentage. As to age, there are 3 in range, which ranks to be the highest, the youngest, and then the oldest in age. As to the years of teaching experience, we can see here that the 1 to 3 years and the 10 years and above teachers are quite in a similar phase, except that the highest number had ranged into the 1 to 3 years of teaching experience. Table 2 shows the communicative language of the teachers. This has something to do with how they are able to communicate with their students. First in rank here was to give feedback in the information given to them. Second to it is the learners have the opportunity to become fluent and to provide opportunities to learning for development of accuracy. And the other one is to facilitate communication among learners. The next tables would determine the different indicators of communicative competencies as to 3.1, competencies of grammar, 3.2, communicative competencies as to linguistic competence, 3.3 discussed the competence of communicative competencies in phonology. 3.4 would be the competitive competencies as to vocabulary. 3.5, the communicative competencies as to the structure of knowledge. And 3.6, we have the communicative competencies as to the discourse analysis. We also have in 3.8 the communicative competencies as to strategic competence. So to sum it up in the summary of table of communicative competencies, it is said that the various competencies find significant importance to each and every teachers. It serves as their guide in perfecting the use of language in their everyday teaching learning series. Among these are the various competencies that had been weighted by the LPU English teachers. Each has its own qualification. For example, the language skills of students' language can help accurate speaking and enhance receptive skills. On the other hand, communicative competence, the information and skills necessary for each speaker to effectively communicate, while interactive skills lead to the sharing of effective communication. Teachers should skillfully incorporate the characteristics of this competence in order to enhance teaching in the school. For example, a teacher will present a grammar subject on an intermediate English grammar course, past simple tense, where teacher describe the grammatical rules and use knowledge gap activity in which peer students interact to find missing information in order to encourage communication and interaction. The indicators of communicative competence will help discover and determine the variations of how English classes can be conducted. It can also help in the manner that they can make guidelines on how these indicators can be made. In the next table that you are bound to see, you will see the differences in the responses when grouped according to the division. This shows the teachers when grouped according to their division. It may be junior high or senior high. There is no significant differences on the various strategies in the communication level and competencies of the students. This would mean that the level of understanding of the students in various divisions would only determine how the lessons are being delivered in accordance with the needs of the division as reprimanded by the curriculum that they are giving. Levels of communication competencies are just in cognizance with how it is being delivered through various forms, written, speaking, and listening. Next table will be the difference in responses when grouped according to gender. Today, education as multicultural education space, a special sphere where individual consciousness joins global consciousness. The dialogue among cultures and mentalities based on harmony, integration, human unity, and readiness for development of personal and professional improvement. The study did not show any difference of significance in relation to sex or gender for the respondents. It can be viewed that both male and female be intensified the use of communicative language in learning and teaching. They have both developed a sense of acceptance and awareness on the communicative competency sphere. As to table 4.3, the difference in responses when grouped according to age. Respondents when grouped according to age relinquishes that there is no difference in various competencies given except that of for vocabulary, which can be defended that when grouped according to age, vocabulary is deemed to challenge the aspect of real-time spoken language comprehension of the students. The meaning of various words, sentences, phrases continually generate into practice and expertise. The results support and extend current views of incremental processing in which adults and students makes use of linguistic information and continuously updated their mental representation on the ongoing language. Table 4.4, difference of response when grouped according to years of teaching experience. In this particular table, it is said that there is a major grammar gap. It was found that teachers with 7 to 9 years of experience were more qualified in grammatical terms based on the post hoc exam. There is wise practice of attributing students' achievements to teacher effectiveness. In this section of teaching profiling, the years of teaching experience has great significance when it pertains to grammar. Teacher education emphasizes both content knowledge and communication skills. It is very important to note that communication skills can be best achieved if there is consistency of grammar use because one cannot be achieved without the other. It follows up to the contention by conceptualizing communication, exploring teacher communication competence is best to fit the needs of its students to attain the much needed communicative competencies. In conclusion, the respondents comprise majority of senior high school teachers, followed by junior high school teachers respectively. Majority of the respondents are female, and that most of them belong to the youngest at oldest in terms of age. Most of the teachers belong to newbies group in teaching experience, followed by those who are seasoned in the second rank. The profile variables of the respondents merely affects their knowledge as to age and years of teaching experience, which is summed up as there is significant difference to how they had used the communicated the language in matters of grammar and the vocabulary. It is merely obvious in ways that teaching needs experience and time to master the art of educating the students. Teachers are competitive with various competencies, find significant importance to the teaching learning competencies. It serves as their guide to perfecting the use of language in their everyday teaching learning series. Each one of these competencies has its own merits it is very important that they have determined the teaching competencies as to their benefits. Teachers, on the other hand, find it very useful in their underpinning as to evaluate the performance of the students as well as to these kinds of competencies: grammar, linguistic competence, phonology, vocabulary, structures of knowledge, social linguistics, discourse analysis, and strategic competence. The respondents have shared equal knowledge on the various communicative competencies when they are grouped according to their profile variables, except for the answers in the use of vocabulary when grouped according to age, which is significant interpretation, meaning that the use of vocabulary is determinant to age of the respondent and has to entail on the experience brought about by how they are able to grasp the knowledge of the time. The more seasoned the teacher is, the more he or she is competent in the use of the language. The same time adheres to the other significant role of English in teaching grammar, which had been affected by the years of teaching experience. The longer the teaching experience is, the better they become more aware of how to use grammar. As to the recommendation to the school owners, this aims to propagate the knowledge of the teachers in the field of their communicative competencies and urge proper incorporation of the impact to them. To the school administrators, department head, that they may be able to know the variation of communicative styles so that the various teachers implore in the study of English. English teachers and faculty members, so that they can understand better how communicative competencies are directed and should be best understood as to its use and effects. And for future researchers, that this study may help and give them importance of how to use communicative language teaching and competencies and further develop plan laid in the research study. Communicative competencies on the move and groove to prove the use of language. The goal of learning and communicating makes the world go round and round. To the vastness of the world and the scope of a tumultuous concept of communicative language had been a thrill to each and every one. Communication strategies and managing communication breakdowns also adheres to each discretion of how the lecture be delivered and addressed to the learner. This can help enhance the knowledge of the teachers in their view of communicative competencies and how they are able to adjust and adapt to the dealings of the society and management in the classroom. These 5 C's had been practiced in urge of answering this particular research. It is somehow named to as the communicative efficiency. Number 1 is communication. To interpret and to aim to reconstruct the use of structure of knowledge. Number 2, culture. To vary attitudes, behavior, and the role of cultural elements in communication. Number 3, comparison. Between language or culture studied and their own encourage learners to think actively about linguistic, social linguistic, and discourse differences between them. Number 4, communities, the use of language within and outside the context of the school. And number 5, connection, the urge to pursue knowledge through the strategic competence and lead the learners to understanding the content material. Following these patterns of English communication competencies would lead to better understand the English language, focusing on fluency and accuracy, which I made an acronym for this. Please watch the video to learn and know more about this program. much for listening. Online is the now normal in the new normal. This is Miss Romana Celeste Abrigunda Mauhay, Lyceum of the Philippines, University, Batangas.
Thank you very much for your wonderful and fantastic talk presentation here, Professor. All right, so the floor it's time for Q&A session. Would you like to ask any question here, or you can leave the messages on the chat box? But anyway, I think yeah, it's time. We still have some time, I mean, to discuss together regarding to the title, or if you are interested in doing research regarding communicative competence of our students, especially if you are the English language teachers. I think you can raise any question to the speaker so that we can just discuss together here. Any question here?
Hello.
Yes, go
Hello. Yeah. I would like to ask. So the question is: in China, many students learn English very early. They can get a high score in the exam, but they cannot communicate and express the idea in English. This phenomenon is very common in China. So I would like to ask about the significance of English language learning and how to evaluate a student's English level. Is he or she can pass the English test or just use English language correctly to communicate? This is my question.
Yeah, because there are so many platforms that we use nowadays. We have proficiency leveling in terms of English and English proficiency, like that. We use some TESOL and TOEIC examination for us to address how we fare on our English competencies. So we use these particular things in order for us to know what particular level we are in communication. In our school, Lyceum of the Philippines, University, Batangas, we use those particular things in our junior high school, senior high school, and college students. And for teachers also, they also encourage us to take examination on those particular examination tools that they are to give us.
Okay, thank you so much, teacher.
Thank you.
All right, that was the question from China. So now we are everywhere in the world here. All right.
Yes, specifically we have also students from China, coming from China and educated here in Lyceum of the Philippines University.
All right. Okay, any more questions? The floor. If you are interested in this matter, you can ask the question how, for example, we can ask how we evaluate, how we just, set the class or curriculum for communicate competence of our students. You can ask the question here. We can just utilize the time here because we still have a lot of time left here. Any question? Anyway, Professor, let me ask you one question, okay? While we are waiting for the others to think about, to come up with some more question. I'm wondering how we can, how you can practice communicative language teaching, especially in the times of social distancing. I just something catchy, at the end of your presentation, right, about new normal, because right now we cannot just meet face to face, right? Normally we have like an online or real-time classroom. I'm wondering how we can practice communicative language teaching, especially in this time of pandemic.
Yes, according to the training development plan I made, the accuracy and fluency, there are several activities that you can see on that particular side. But in this time of the new normal, we make it different for our students in LPU. We use the gamification, as we say nowadays, so that we introduce them on how they are able to join in and participate in recitation and communication per se, because we cannot really push our students to open their video cameras if we wanted them to be seen, because that is data privacy, as they say. So we make it, we strategize, and we do tactics that can enhance more of their communicative skills, specifically on our English classes, so that they'd be able to join in different conferences or webinars that the teacher needs to conduct, like small debates, small group discussions, and we make breakout rooms for them so that education is still fun and enjoyable.
Yeah, all right. So the flow, I think you can hear the very, very wonderful answer here, right? So you can just come up with some ideas or some activities, especially in this time of pandemic, right? Because it's quite difficult to deal with the things, online things. Okay, we have to accept this anyway. Okay, so the flow, any more question? Or you can just ask the researcher, I mean, how we can create activities for the students to practice communicative competence, especially this time. You know, I think we have experience some difficulty anyway, you know, especially when we teach a language. Okay, during this time, I mean, like me also, sometimes it was very difficult for me, I mean, to tackle or to deal with the things, especially on online things anyway. Any more question?
Yes,
Language
so
yeah.
Yes, who?
go ahead, Professor Romana.
Yeah,
Okay.
language can also be seen in effect of emotions. So we need to also take care of that, because the mental health of our students is also shown through the language they deliver within us also as teachers.
Yeah. Yeah, any more question here?
Yes, Professor Romana,
Yes.
can I ask you one question? Because your research is on the communicative language teaching and competency of English teachers in your university. So could you please firstly illustrate how did you evaluate and assess the such competency of those teachers? I mean, the communicative language teaching and competencies of English teacher in your universities, like what kind of tools or instrument did you use to evaluate such competency, and how accurate and effective did such tools to evaluate this competency? Thank you very much.
There is a questionnaire that had been given to these teachers for them to answer in 9 communicative competency levels that I had made mention in my research. So those had been the basis of how they answered in respect to their competencies.
Oh, so did you design this questionnaire by yourself?
Yes, this was done during post-pandemic, before the end of the classes, before the pandemic comes. So the study was already conducted.
Okay, because I'm very curious about the process when you design this questionnaire, like what kind of theoretic framework or some kind of previous questionnaire you have turned to as references to design such effective questionnaire to evaluate your university's teachers' competency in cultural communication, because sometimes it is very hard for the researcher to design an effective questionnaire to evaluate some kind of competency like this. So
yes, that is very true. That's why somehow, I had adopted a particular questionnaire and then afterwards suit it in the needs and how our teachers can also understand by that particular detail in the questionnaire I made that had been tested in reliability by our statistician as well.
Yeah, okay, very good. All right,
thank you for your answer. Thank you very much.
Okay, all right, any more questions? So I think we have learned quite a lot from this session, right? All right, any more questions regarding to how to teach communication, how to teach communicative competence, you know, how to enhance our students' ability in this kind of thing, all right? Any more questions here before we end this presentation? Okay, so I think it's no more question right now. All right, some of us may be behind the camera, I mean, having lunch maybe because it's lunchtime here in Thailand. Anyway, okay, so thank you very much, Professor, and congratulations on your success. Very, very, very wonderful presentation here. And welcome to Thailand anyway, I mean, after the pandemic, right? Welcome to Rangsit University. I mean, if you can have any chance to visit Thailand, right? Thank you very much.
So much. Sawadee ka.
Anyway, we all here can keep in touch together and we can share our research experience to each other. All right. I'm very glad too as well. All right.
Thank you so much. Sawadee ka.
Sawadee ka.